Good. We started the year before the regular season started on Thursday night. The Emerald Ridge Curtis game that was actually postponed at halftime due to thunder and lightning, and they replayed the rest of the game the following Saturday. And I want to ask you the big question. The Fog Bowl last week, we had two different perspectives. You stood on the field. I was up in the press box. I didn't even see the last 4 minutes of the game, but it was probably one of the top games of the year. Foss against Wilson.
In terms of weather, it's in my 19 years, it's about as crazy as I've ever seen it in the fall. You're right. It started week one, and we're in lightning, and obviously we've had a little bit of an Indian summer, so we had the warm weather kind of extend and then just kind of get crazy on us, and then just the last few weeks, the fog, and it even kind of lingered a little bit last week too. But you're right, the Fog Bowl 2 weeks ago was I couldn't see you, I couldn't see the press box. I could barely see the other side of the sideline. It was pretty heavy stuff. Yeah, it was, and it ended up being a great game. It's probably as good a football game as I've seen all season. So you're right, it's been pretty crazy. Hopefully that we'll be granted a pardon here headed into the playoffs with some nice, stable weather.
Before we get on to the offensive side of the ball in the 2013 All-Overbo team, let's talk a little bit about some teams in the local area who might have had down years a bit. First is the Lakes Lancers, dropping their first 4 ball games of the year, and then recently losing to Bonnie Lake. And another team that really didn't perform up to expectation levels that a lot of people said at the beginning of the year, and that's the Bellarmine Lions.
Well, Lakes has been ravaged by injuries. They've lost 14 guys in the last 3 weeks. A lot of them they're stars. Caleb Lyons included with a high ankle sprain. A lot of these injuries are season-ending. You know, they're trying to break in a new quarterback who's a heck of a runner, a nice athlete, who's just kind of worn down in his first year as a varsity quarterback. Even Benning Patel-Ai has been beaten up. It's just been one of those years for Dave and Lakes, and where the injury bug has just really kind of brought them back a little bit to the rest of the league, and obviously Peninsula's still very good. It was a nice win for Bonnie Lake, though. Let's not lose sight of the fact that, you know, Jason Silbaugh, a defensive guy, former Lakes guy, has that program. It's, you know, maybe it's taken him a little longer to kind of get this thing going, but I'll tell you something, a victory like that over your former boss and it obviously clinched a playoff spot, that's going to go a long ways in catapulting that program. Now, as far as Bellarmine Prep, you lose a quarterback like Cepho Lufau to Colorado, 3-year starter. He was our all-area MVP last year, and you're moving your running back to quarterback, and that's been a bit of an adjustment. They've run a lot of quarterback option. They found a nice little running back in Nathan Golterman, and their defense is really young. So that veteran presence, they had a lot of guys come back, but you're missing a great leader in Cepho, and they've had their ups and downs. And last week, that's a very aggressive defense, and Olympia did a great job doing counters and zone read stuff and kind of gouging him with big plays or gashing him with big plays, and that was a bit of a shock to everybody losing a game like that. And now they kind of head into this week, maybe a little bit as the underdog at Gig Harbor, but if they win, they still win the league championship for a third straight year and collect the number 1 seed. So it's not like the Lake situation, but at least there's a little more suspense following that program this year.
And 3 football teams that have, for lack of a better term, really hit rock bottom. Number 1, Mount Tahoma, only 6 points scored all season, 0-8. You also have Stadium Tigers, who only win on the year was against the Mount Tahoma team, a 2-0 forfeit, and the Washington Patriots, my alma mater, which has been very devastating, 0-8 on the year before going into the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, let me preface that by saying the city's been great. It's been as healthy with Wilson and Foss and Lincoln as it's been in a number of years. So, not every team in the city is going to have great years. Now, Mount Tahoma's young. Their numbers were down. They had to forfeit the first game. A lot of things that maybe didn't go right at the beginning of the season, and it just kind of snowballed from there. They have some talent there. They just need to get some numbers out. They're anywhere from 20 to 35 guys out every week. Now, I like Jess Nelson, and Stadium's one of those schools that have struggled for a long time. It's a tough job. think he's done a nice job. Trey Scott's been, he's a good player. They just don't have enough good players. And again, like I said, when the city's been good, those two teams have sort of taken the brunt of that. Washington was loaded last year. They had a lot of good players, we all know.
All overbo member Victor Gamboa.
Yes, Mr. Gamboa, who's at Eastern Washington and redshirting. So they're in a little bit of a rebuilding mode. And the SPSL 2A, arguably, from top to bottom, might be our most competitive league in the South Sound. So somebody had to bring up the rear. I don't know if it was going to be Washington, but they had a lot of yards against Sumner 2 weeks ago. So they can move the ball. It just hasn't translated into wins. So Mike's done a nice job out there just building a program that's at least competitive, even though they obviously they've fallen short with wins this year, but they'll be back here in the near future.
Well, Todd, we'll bring you in here to talk about the 2013 All Overbo team, and we'll do that.
Let's do it.
Right now, you want to have great protection for your quarterback. So we'll start off on the offensive line. 6'6", 300-pound freshman from Graham-Kapowson High School, Foster Sorrell. And I've told a lot of people that he could probably start in college tomorrow. Watching him play football has been absolutely amazing on how he looks out there on the football field and how polished he is. So he'll be my first choice as offensive lineman on this year's team.
It's a great story. Let's just think about this for a moment. A starting left tackle in the SPSL as a ninth grader. That's never happened before. He's Graham-Kapowson's best lineman. I remember talking to Eric Curley, the coach out there, in the beginning of the season, and Eric's not one to overstate anything. And he said, Todd, I'm going to tell you something right now. I have the number one recruit in the country for 2016 on my team. His name's Foster Sorrell. I said, who is he? He goes, he's a lineman. He's going to be a tackle. I said, okay. I've seen Josh Garnett. I've seen, Walker Williams. I've seen
Benji Coates. Tony Olsen.
I've seen all the good ones that have come out here. And like a lot of people, I was skeptical, but I put it out there on Twitter, say, hey, listen, this is a name to put away just for reference purposes. Over the next week, I got responses from basketball coaches in our area. I've gotten responses from football coaches, baseball coaches, all saying the same thing. Hey, Todd, as good as he is in football, you should see this kid play basketball. Hey, Todd, as good as he is in football, you should see this kid throw a pitch off the mound. He can throw high 80s, touching 90. And then I got to see him play football, and unlike all those other guys that we mentioned as a ninth grader who were great players, but as ninth graders, it just didn't look like they were quite there and growing into their body with a coordination and maturity level. He's got it all. He looks like a college freshman to me. He almost toys with defensive ends. He's that good, and I know that on TV, I think it was Taylor Barton that said, this might be the first kid out of our area to ever get a scholarship offer from every major FBS school in the country, and I couldn't agree more. He's that good. We have 3 more years with him. People, if you like great football players, get out and see this young man play. And to top it all off, he comes from a wonderful family. This is going to be a fun time for Eric and Graham-Kapowson having that young man in that school.
His father played baseball with Mike Olson at Washington High School on a summer team. Moving along on the offensive line, from Charles Wright Academy, 6'3", 335, Robert Luke. And when I watched Robert and the Charles Wright Terriers play in a first-round playoff game last year against the Montesano Bulldogs, who went on to win the state title last year, I said, he is going to be on the team next year. And here he is, Robert Luke.
He's nasty. I mean, he is big, strong, nasty. He's going to be an interior lineman probably. He could play center. He could play guard. And lo and behold, look at guys. I mean, Charles Wright's back in the Nisqually League Championship game come Saturday in Sumner. They're going to play Cascade Christian. It's going to be a great test for him. He's been, he made a decision 2 years ago to leave Gig Harbor, come to Charles Wright, be a smaller school, play for Mike Finch, who was your all-overbo coach of the year last year. I think it's been a great move for him. I know sometimes small school guys get ignored or overshadowed. He's done a great job of getting out to camps, getting exposure. Another really, really good lineman from our area. It's been a real strong position group in our area this year across the board.
And speaking of strong, Caleb McGarry, and read an interesting article on USA Today uh, from Fife High School. Caleb McGarry, 6'8", 280-pound senior lineman. Read an interesting story. He's listed anywhere from 6'7", 280 to 6'9", 285. So it's all over the board on what he's listed at on the recruiting boards. And he joked around, well, it depends on what doctor I visited when they took his weight. But Caleb McGarry is getting all kinds of interest. I think his highest level of interest coming from the University of Nebraska, an offer.
Well, he's the number one tackle recruit in the Northwest. They call him. They don't call him. He's all those heights you just referenced. They don't call him Big Country for nothing. And he had a little bit of a scare last year. During basketball season, he had a little bit of a murmur. I know that was a concern. He was cleared. It's funny because he's going to be a tackle in college probably, but he's played tight end his whole career at Fife. Got great feet, great basketball player. With those two big kids from Fife, they can just pound it down anybody's throat. They had 500 yards last week rushing against Sumner in a loss. You don't do that behind guys that can't move people.
And moving along on the offensive line, a conversion from fullback where he played fullback most of the season, and I saw enough of him in the Fog Bowl a couple weeks ago to put him on this year's team. Patoli Pesafea, 6'1", 305-pound senior from Foss High School. Great athlete and a great addition to the 2013 all-overbo offensive line.
Committed to Eastern Washington in the summer. An ideal model leader. How would you like a 305-pound fullback coming at you with Devin Clark behind you? And you're right. When they suffered some offensive line injuries, he volunteered and said, Coach, move me down to the offensive line where I can help when we need to shore up the week of the Wilson game, the Fog Bowl game. And, he's obviously he's a two-way presence too. He had a big fumble recovery in that game. So, what a great year. What a great story all the way around, not only with Peso, but that whole program who's knocking on the door for their first playoff spot since the 70s.
And the final selection, offensive line from Enumclaw. You got one big country in Caleb McGarry. You got to get some country boys. Chandler Friuli, the 6'3", 295-pounder out of Enumclaw High School, University of Washington, Oregon, beating down his door trying to get him to come play for them.
Yeah, and those two schools, especially the Huskies, could use a tackle prospect. And Enumclaw is one of the more improved teams in our area. Mark Gunderson's done a fantastic job of instilling toughness. They want that I formation. They want to run it down people's throats. And this young man is a big reason, a big guy to run behind. Probably going to fall a little short in making the playoffs, but they're on the right track.
Well, that's the offensive line. Now we need to find someone to line up behind that offensive line. And in my years of picking members of the all-overbo team, the quarterback spot, and I have picked some good ones along the line, the Hewards, Luke, Damon, Billy Joe Hobart, and the list goes on. And a lot of quarterbacks that I've picked to be on the team have been from Puyallup. I've also had a lot of Lakes and Drew Miller, but this year I've got one of the most athletic, talented quarterbacks from Puyallup High School, 6'1", 185-pound junior, thrown for over 2,500 yards on the season, 30 touchdowns. Most likely will go in the Major League Baseball draft. He's that good. But Brandon Ilias, welcome to this year's team.
And the difference last year, he's a second-year starter. He's not making the mistakes that he did last year. He had a lot of turnovers, and that was something that Gary Jeffers was pointed about in the offseason. Hey, you're a great athlete. You're a great leader. You're an amazing athlete. You can run. You can throw. He's got a rocket of an arm. You need to cut down on the turnovers. So he studied a lot. He studied on what defense they're trying to do with him, and he's cut his turnovers in half. That's a big step for a kid who throws the ball as many times as Brennan does.
And if we have to run the ball, we'll do it on the legs of Teague James, 5'10", 185-pound senior, over 1,250 yards on the year, 25 touchdowns, and the father of Alan James, who played at Washington High School and then went on to play for Don James at the University of Washington. Very explosive and has a little help from our all-overbo offensive lineman, Foster Sorrell.
I went into the season, preseason-wise, if I had to identify a preseason all-area player of the year favorite, Teague James was the guy that I identified. If you've seen him run, he runs like Arian Foster. He's a glider. He's great in his own blocking scheme, and he's a workhorse. He's not very big, but he runs like he's 225 pounds. And he's had not only just a fantastic year, but a fantastic career. What an amazing! He led the league in rushing last year. He's going to lead the league in rushing again. That team has really kind of taken its cue from what Teague James does on the football field.
We're going to have a run-pass mixture, but now it's time to move over the wide receiver spot. And we picked up a play, last week's 53-48 Curtis victory over the Rogers Rams. But here's our next selection. We'll give you a little treat on how much fun it is to watch him play the game of football.
So Mahoney has it teed up at...
I guess we have some technical difficulties we'll get fixed up, but our next selection from Rogers High School, 6'1", 185-pound senior, Kyler Uli, 5 catches last week for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 75-yard kickoff return. 51 grabs this year for 907 yards and 9 touchdowns. Kyler Uli, welcome to the 2013 All-Overbo team.
They're averaging 40 points a game. They've scored on the best teams in the SPSL, both in the North and the South. And they get one shot against Puyallup for that final spot this weekend. That young man will be in the center of all of it.
And then moving along at the wide receiver spot from Curtis High School, 6'1", 185-pound junior Jason Williams played for Tim Kelly in the state basketball championship game a year ago. Athletic, and he's the type of receiver that can go up and get you the balls. Just a great wide receiver for the Curtis Vikings.
Two-way star. He and Carter McKay arguably make the best two-way receiving secondary tandem in the area.
And moving along, Levi Jordan, the 5'8", 175-pound senior wide receiver, and only about 500 yards receiving on the year and 10 touchdowns, something like that. But the reason I picked Levi Jordan for the All-Overbo team is he's got heart, and that's one of the reasons why I put him on the team. And another reason that he joined the team is he got knocked out of the Curtis Puyallup game this year, and you could see Brandon Ilias cause for concern when his wide receiver got hurt, and that's the reason that Levi Jordan is a member of the 2013 All-Overbo team.
Completely different offense without him. The Winter brothers have really emerged in his stead when Levi Jordan's back, and he's been back since last week with the concussion. Like Mr. Uli, Mr. Jordan is going to be a big target come Friday night for that last playoff spot.
And the final selection on the offensive line before we meet our coach is Chico McClatcher from Federal Way. Over 2,200 yards of all-purpose, 24 touchdowns. We'll try to get that Kyler Uli play as we head to break. You're listening to the All-Overbo Selection Show on your high school sports leader, Clay Radio, 1180 AM.
In Port Auto Center, it's Mark. We're Tacoma's largest independent Honda and Acura service center, just recently expanded to take care of Toyotas and Lexus. Also, we were just voted the best repair shop by the readers of South Sound Magazine 2 years in a row. We're located on the corner of 66 and South Tacoma Way. You can reach us at 253-473-1111 or see us on the web at importautoctr.com.
You're overwhelmed. You've been seriously injured in an accident, or worse, a loved one has been killed. Call the law offices of David Buffalini, 32 years representing accident victims in all aspects of their claims, and extensive trial experience to ensure a fair result. Call 272-2100 for a free initial consultation. If you or a loved one has been seriously injured in a car accident, you need experienced legal representation. Call attorney David Buffalini and let his 32 years of courtroom experience work for you. Call the law offices of David Buffalini in Tacoma at 272-2100 for a free consultation.
Reach higher, go farther, go further, advance. This is your time to grow, to become. You can go anywhere, you can be anyone. So get there with Tacoma Community College. TCC is ranked among the top 50 schools in the nation. With more than 65 degrees and certificates, small class sizes, and the latest technology, TCC offers a high-quality education.
There's a nice young quarterback. We've talked about Foster Sorrell kind of anchoring that line, and their defense is team-oriented. It was surprising to me to find out that this was their first league championship in his tenure there, because they've been good for so long. They just haven't been able to get over the hump beating a Curtis or a Federal Way. And this year, well, I think when they beat Federal Way on that Thursday night game at home, they've just kind of flown away from everybody. I think they're the one team in 4A in our area that can get to the Tacoma Dome. We all know who the favorite is in 4A and Camas down south. But this is a good enough team to definitely make their first trip to the Tacoma Dome.
They all have a tough road with Camas. A lot of people have seen Camas this year say that nobody's going to touch Camas.
I mean, we all kind of knew with all those juniors last year, they made the state semifinal, losing to Skyline, and really gave Skyline a pretty good game until a disastrous second quarter, that this was their year. And they've even taken a step up this year from last year. All their key guys have improved. It's going to take a heroic effort to take them down. They've just steamrolled over everybody. But, if Bethel can get them in the Tacoma Dome in front of their home crowd, who knows? If they can, a couple things break their way. Anything. How football is. It's a funny game. So
it certainly is. I just think that it depends on how teams limit their mistakes during playoff time, and you can't afford to turn it over or pass. And if you can afford to have the type of kids on the team that don't make mistakes, then you're good. So we are I think we have the coach of the team on the line.
He was just giving Foster Sorrell just a few more words of advice before he joined us. Hey, Coach, how you doing? It's Todd Millis. Oh, Coach, we lost him. He'll be right back.
Yeah, we're running through some glitches here, but yeah, going back to Eric Curley, this is his second selection as coach. It was chosen when he was at Bethel, and also this is the first time here. But keep in mind, he's coached at Clover Park, so he's really been involved in building up 3 high schools football programs. First with Clover Park, and then they didn't really get a chance to stick around. But I think if he stuck around and worked with the program at Clover Park, he could have turned it almost like into a Lakes program.
Well, I mean, they get athletes, and wherever he's been, I know he's one of the most respected coaches in the area. Hopefully, we can get him on to talk.
Yeah,
so
I think I
just don't touch the button. Just press the right button this time, Scotty.
I won't touch the button. I'd like to remind you, coming up tomorrow night, we'll have the Mount Rainier game against Emerald Ridge and Troy half a day. Here's a little all overbo trivia or all overbo information. All overbo information that was really gonna. Troy half a day was the center for Billy Joe Hobart, along with when he was quarterbacking, and also was the center for Damon Heard. But now we'll talk to the coach, and Coach Curley. Thanks for coming on, and I want to let you know who your offense is going to be. And you're pretty familiar with the name of Foster Sorrell, Robert Luke from Charles Wright, Caleb McGarry from Fife, Patoli Pesafea from Foss, and Chandler Strulli from Enumclaw. The quarterback, Brandon Ilias. I'm sure you're familiar with Teague James. The wide receivers, Kyler Uli, Jason Williams, Levi Jordan, and Chico McClatcher. You think we could win some games with that offense, Coach?
Pretty special group you picked there. Pretty good athletes.
So I was just telling Todd that you're the first coach that's been chosen to coach the All Overbo team when you've coached at two different schools, first at Bethel and then now at Graham Kapowsin. How much has the game changed since you were coaching at Bethel and now coaching at Graham Kapowsin?
You know, it's changed a lot. We've used a lot of the same things, but a lot of teams are now doing a lot. There's a lot of just offense right now. Spread the ball about, getting athletes the ball in space. And, you know, it's a little different. Everybody's scoring a lot of points where our offense still kind of, we play a little bit more of a more ball control, a little bit playing a little defense with our offense. And so, but every week we're facing guys spreading the ball for the most part everywhere, throwing it all over the place and basically playing basketball out there.
Well, Coach, we've given you all the offensive weapons that one could ask for, but wait until we understand that you have a place to be. But when we announce the defense, nobody will score on the 2013 All-Overbo defense. So offense will be the key. How far along do you look as far as the playoffs goes? Do you go just one game at a time?
Yeah, I mean, we're going one game at a time, but, you know, we also are, you know, looking ahead a little bit and kind of, you know, it's nice this year since we got number one seed that we're going to get 2 home games, so we're excited about that. But, you know, we got to take care. We got a game this week at across our rivals, one of our rivals in the school district, Spanaway Lake, and then we'll end up playing, who knows, someone out of the Narrows, one of 3 teams, and go from there.
Hey, Eric, Todd Millis, how you doing?
Good, Todd. How are you?
Good. Teague James, 3rd and 3. I've seen it a few times. You'll go left. You have a pretty good left tackle, and we've had a lot of conversations about him. How many times has that combination worked for you in getting big plays done?
You know, we run behind Tosser a lot of times in key things. Him and Duke Steinmeier, the left guard, seniors, playing really well. And then Donald Waukesha, our tight end, you know, 6'4", 220. We've done it a lot of times in key situations. We feel like, you know, they're going to get it done. They understand our blocking schemes and get the right scheme against the different fronts we see, because we see a lot more than a lot of people, because we're more in the 2-back more than often than most teams. So we're going to see multiple fronts, people taking chances and looping and slanting and, you know, cutting our D linemen or our O linemen. So you see a variety, but you know, he's a special kid. He's a smart kid, so you know, they're doing a good job making the right calls over there.
You know, as many people may not know that you've coached baseball, and I've umpired baseball, and I was doing a 10U game, and I'm guessing Foster's about 15 now, so probably 5 years ago. And when he stood up there on the mound, he dwarfed everybody else out there on the mound. And I remember being at a game this year, and I was, wow, do you remember that kid? And you pointed over there, and he looked as big as the bleachers, just huge. I've told people he's the best lineman I've ever seen, and he's only a freshman. How does he rate in all the linemen you've seen over the years?
You know, he's as good as anyone I've had, and you know, and he as a freshman, he's as good as the kids. And I've had some good ones that were seniors, and I think the main thing, he came in strong and athletic. And then the one thing that really pops out is his football smarts, and he learns and he wants to be great. So he's frustrated when he's not great, and when he makes a mistake and he wants to fix it. Where a lot of kids want to make excuses, or you know, don't want to sit on the side, or you know, don't want to work on it. He's always asking for the help to get perfect. He wants to be great, and I think that drive is going to push him, you know, far in his career. Yeah.
We didn't get to really talk about it too much. We did say that, you know, he's good in baseball, also basketball. He's one of the top 50 basketball players in the country for his age group. Where do you see him going to college? Is he going to play baseball, basketball, or football, or is someone going to take a chance and let him play them all?
Well, I don't think he'll play baseball. He pretty much, you know, just does that a little bit now. You know, football and basketball are going to be his lead things. You know, he's only in 9th grade. I think it's great that he plays both and keeps active in both of them. You know, it's going to fall into place. You know, he's going to have somewhere to play. There's not going to be a worry there. It's just going to be, you know, how he develops, how, you know, what he feels like. And, you know, maybe he's doing both. Maybe he's just doing one in college. So.
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. And it's a well-deserved honor. I have a great amount of respect for the job you've done, not only at Graham Kapowsin, leading them to their first unbeaten season, first ever league title, but what you've done at Clover Park and Bethel. Thanks for joining us and spending some time. I know you have to be somewhere tonight, but I appreciate it a lot, and good luck throughout the playoffs and the rest of the season, Coach.
Well, thank you, Scotty. Thanks for promoting high school kids out there. You've done a great job over the years promoting them and putting your time out there. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. That's Eric Curley. We'll be back after this. You're listening to the 2013 All Overbo Selection Show on your high school sports leader, Clay Radio, 1180 AM.
When you're looking for auto repair in the Federal Way, Tacoma, or Gig Harbor area, Eagle Tire and Automotive has got you covered, providing comprehensive auto service and the world's best tires at affordable prices. Eagle Tire and Automotive is truly your one-stop shop that will do your repairs in a professional, timely manner. Their always friendly staff is eager to answer your question and give you a fair and accurate price quote on the services that you need. Visit Eagle Tire and Automotive in Federal Way at 1515 South 344th, in Tacoma at 102 Puyallup Avenue, and in Gig Harbor at 5500 Olympic Drive.
Terry E. Lumsden is proud to sponsor local youth athletics. You know, Terry was actively involved in sports when he grew up in Tacoma over 30 years ago. Now, during the last 30 years, Terry supported his community by representing injured people. Terry E. Lumsden's legal expertise includes assistance for injury from car accidents, from fire loss, toxic chemical injuries, and food contamination. Tacoma native Terry E. Lumsden, with law offices on 6th Avenue. Online, telumsden.com. Lincoln Hardware has been in business since 1929. That's over 80 years. Just south of Lincoln High School on South G Street, Lincoln Hardware is known for personal service and quality products for all your hardware needs, from plumbing to paint. And see Lincoln Hardware's gardening section with everything in one place for your place. See Scott, Dave, or Jennifer for service that makes a difference at Lincoln Hardware. In business over 80 years. Just south of Lincoln High School on South G Street.
When moving your existing business or opening a new business, location is important to your success. You want good foot traffic, good exposure, a prestigious setting, and professional property management. Tacoma's famous Freight House Square is under new ownership and is headed in a new, exciting direction. Take advantage of the South Sound's newest and most vibrant transit hub and prime new business location. Your business deserves to be located in Freight House Square. Visit freighthousesquare.com and explore the possibilities.
Welcome back to the 2013 All Overbo Selection Show. Thanks, John Burton, for taking care of our technical glitches. And now it's time to look for defense. And I tell you, I don't know if you can use the term badass on the radio, but if you can't, I just did, and that's what this defense is all about, Todd. I carefully selected and spent more time on this year's defense than ever before. I'm tired of watching these 53-48 games, 62-0, 78-6 ball games like Wilson beat Mount Tahoma this year. No one will ever score on this defense because I've made sure that I've got guys who will line up, have speed, can tackle in the open field. No one's going to score on this defense, and we'll start on the offensive line. I know he's been a little bit banged up this year from Lakes High School. Benning Patoae, the 6'4", 255-pound senior, and he's got the yellow line through his name because he was on the team last year. So welcome back, Benning Patoae.
Well, I mean, we're talking about one of the top recruits in 2015. You're right, he's been dinged up. It hasn't been a stellar year at Lakes. He's, again, I know they've tried to move him around. Wherever he goes, he's hounded by constant double teams. He's a little different than Sione. Sione was this squatty, big, strong guy that would just push you aside. Benning's tall and lean and athletic, and we haven't seen the best of Benning yet. One of these years, and hopefully it'll be next year, he's going to have a monster year. And we're going to see exactly what this kid's ceiling is. He is going to be a fantastic Division I football player someday.
And another yellow line through the name of the next player from Federal Way High School, 6'4", 310-pound J.T. Tiuli, the senior, the run stopper. So there are my two run stoppers on the defensive line of the football, both with yellow lines through their name because they both were on the team last year.
And JT's a very good offensive lineman blocking for the likes of Chico McClatcher, and some of those other kids in the backfield. But you're right. If you're looking for a kid right in the middle, you want to run at me, I'm going to run you over. That's JT. And Federal Way is, again, very, very good and poised to make a nice little playoff push.
Moving along on the defense and linebackers, we'll start with 6 foot, 190-pound senior from Graham Kapowison, Scott Moss. 34 tackles on the year to go along with 7 sacks. So we're not going to let these quarterbacks and these no-huddle, throw the ball down the field, fun offenses stand around there. We're going to put some heat on them. We're going to do it with Scott Moss, linebacker, Graham Kapowison.
And like I mentioned before, Graham Kapowison plays fantastic team defense. They rally to the football. It's not just one guy making all the plays. And Scott certainly is in the middle of a lot of action along with Teague James. But it's a very, very sound defense they've got out there to go along with a really, really balanced offense.
From Rogers High School, Gene Bowen has a good one here. 6 foot, 175-pound senior LeGrant Pegram from Rogers High School brings speed, brings the great technical, tackles well in the open field, and that's what it's all about, not letting these offenses run up and down the field, having guys to tackle, cover in space, and speed.
Yeah, lately it's been a tough ride for the Rogers defense. They've given up a lot. They've scored a lot. LeGrant Pegram, what can you say about him? He affects all 3 phases of the game. He's a fantastic returner, a really good receiver, big play guy. And if someone's going to make a play on that Rogers defense, I put my money on him. He's such a fantastic athlete. And they're going to need him a lot because I wouldn't be surprised if the first team to 60 on Friday between Puyallup and Rogers wins that game.
Well, let's take the drive up to your alma mater and choose our next spot, linebacker, 6 foot, 195-pound Devin Clark from the Foss Falcons. And Devin has a big motor, a big engine, and could tackle in the open field and come up and play the run.
Yeah, and let's take what happened in that Fog Bowl game a couple weeks ago that we were both at. They obviously relied on him a lot in their offensive backfield to carry the ball. He looks like he got dinged up at the end of the game. Wilson's driving for a go-ahead score, maybe wins the game, maybe eliminates Foss from any sort of playoff contention. And Devin Clark says, "Coach, get me back in there. Let me stop these guys." And they made not 1 but 2 red zone stands at the end of that game with Devin back in the game. He's a tough guy, a leader, a senior. It's been a long time since Foss has been in the playoffs, and he wants to be part of that group that does.
Well, now here's the third member, the yellow line through his name, was on the team last year. 6 foot, 225-pound senior from Curtis High School, Calvin McLean. And you know what makes him better this year? He has a nickname. It's Calvin Insane McLean, because that's what Gary McGinley, very smart football player, 64 tackles on the season, number 3 in the SPSL combined with the 4A, but in tackles for loss, he's number 1.
Yeah.
So there again, no one's going to stand around there and get comfy trying to throw the ball against my defense, or actually Coach Curley's defense. He's the coach, but no one's going to stand around, get comfortable back in the pocket, and hand the ball off, because Insane McLean will come busting in there. And he's the kind of kid that when you watch him play, he has great football instincts. And that's tough to coach. But he has a nose for the football, and that's why he's on the team. So welcome back, Calvin Insane McLean.
Well, Insane McLean playing for the mad scientist that is Jeff Hausman, who has been known to cook up some interesting pressures and some very complex sort of pressure schemes. You need a middle linebacker like Calvin McLean to know where everybody's supposed to be, because if one guy's out of line, that opens up a possibility of a big play. And what else I like about Calvin is Calvin's made a pretty big contribution as a fullback, so he's going both ways this year, as are a lot of guys at Curtis. So yeah, he's had a really, really good career, and that's a very, very good front 7 that Curtis has, led by this young man.
Well, let's keep it right in the family and stay at Curtis High School. 6'3", 185-pound senior safety Scott Wismer, who is up among the leaders and interceptions in the SPSL with 3 on the season. What I like about Scott Wismer, he can come up, play the run, he can play that linebacker spot, and then he can play the ball downfield. And for his size, has that hidden speed that a lot of people really don't see unless you watch him play a lot of ball games.
Yeah, he's a long strider. He doesn't look like he's going to catch you. He's a lot like Jake Locker, the way he runs. And Scotty, how many quarterbacks these days do you see making an impact on the other side of the ball, especially 4A schools where, you don't want your quarterback hurt. Scott Wismer has had a really good year as a quarterback. He's had a really good year as a safety. He's a very, very good baseball player for Brian Robinson out there as a first baseman, outfielder at Curtis. So a very, very fine all-around athlete.
And notice this player in the Fog Bowl, and he earned a spot on the team. Kyler Stecker, the 5'8", 190-pound senior from Wilson High School. And Don Clegg had that Wilson team 6-0 on the year going into that game against Foss for the lost 14-13 and then suffered that loss to Lincoln last week. But Stecker was running all over the field in that fog. And like I said, I saw most of the game with the exception of the last 4 minutes. But Kyler Stecker, welcome to this year's team.
No, I mean, it's not the defenses. The defense has been really good all year. They've held down some really good offenses in the Narrows 3A, including Foss. Foss didn't have a lot of yardage in that game. And Lincoln was in Wilson territory, I think, 13 of 14 drives last week and only scored 21 points. So that defense had to defend the short field all evening and held its own. So, that Rams defense might get sort of, overshadowed by some very good players on the other side of the ball, but there's no shame in what they've done this season.
Moving along to Emerald Ridge, Eric Casillas, a 5'11", 190-pounder, 35 tackles on the year, has a pick 6 for a touchdown. Coach Haffaday said this kid loves to hit, so Eric Casillas, although he's only, his team hasn't, we'll get a chance to watch him tomorrow night. And moving along from Puyallup High School, Marcos Wilson, the 5'8", 175-pound senior defensive back. And the final spot from Federal Way, the second quarterback on the defense, the 6'2", 190-pound senior, number 3 in interceptions in the SPSL 4A North, 4A South. Keenan Curran, 6'2", 290-pounder, can absolutely fly. So welcome to this year's team, and I think he's one of those D1 type of athletes.
Yeah, he's going to be a safety in college, and he had 10 Division I scholarship offers before the season started. First year running the offense, he's electric, and you put him with Chico McClatcher. That's almost unfair.
Well, we'll come back and we'll get to special teams guys and then all the other little special things we provide. You're listening to 2013 All Overbo Selection Show on your high school sports leader, Clay Radio, 1180 AM.
At Pierce College, you'll find a dedicated faculty and programs that rival those found at four-year universities and technical schools with more than 40 professional and technical areas of study, including fast-growing fields such as dental hygiene, veterinary technology, digital design, and nursing. Pierce College is more than just classes. Find yourself here with athletics, clubs, music, theater, fitness, child care centers, and much more. Get started today at pierce.ctc.edu. Pierce College. Possibilities realized.
The one golf course players keep returning to is the home course. This public course has great early bird specials and twilight rates, as well as great senior and military rates. Visit thehomecourse.com to learn more about why the home course has been ranked the #2 public golf course in the state. It's also going to be the site of the 2014 U.S. Women's Amateur Public Links, a national championship. For tee times and information, call 866-964-0520. Just minutes off of I-5 and DuPont, the home course is the home of golf in the Northwest.
Fence Specialist has been meeting the South Sound fencing needs since 1969. Security and privacy starts with a good fence. Fence Specialist offers all types of fences, metal, wood, even lifetime PVC, and hard-to-find items, to the fence industry and to the do-it-yourselfer. When you need an attractive quality fence, it has to be Fence Specialists, your one-stop fencing source. Always free estimates. Visit them at their new location at 10708 Golden Given Road East, where the 512 crosses Golden Given, or call 253-531-5452 to schedule an estimate. 253-531-5452. 52 for fence specialists.
Hi, Sharon. How's the team doing?
Good, and you?
Well, with the changing season, I've been busy cleaning out my closets and taking my donations to Goodwill.
You know, I should do that too. My donation to Goodwill is a great thing to do since it supports Goodwill's job training and placement services and recycling too.
That's right. Goodwill, the original reduce, reuse, and recycle store.
Goodwill needs your tax-deductible donations of gently used clothes, shoes, books, household items, and cars. They help support people in our community through job training and placement services. Visit tacomagoodwill.org to find locations nearest you.
Welcome back to the 2013 All Overbo Selection Show, and for the first time in almost 20 years, I wanted to just go out and take on the guys in the parking lot and play football after announcing my defense, and I'll do it again. Benning Patoa A, JT Tiuli, Scott Moss from Graham Kapowson, LeGrant Pegram from Rogers, Devin Clark from Foss, Calvin Insane McLean from Curtis, Scott Wismer from Curtis, Kyler Stecker from Wilson, Eric Casillas from Emerald Ridge, Marcus Wilson from Puyallup, and Keenan Curran rounding out the defense on the 2013 All-Over-Bowl team. And then now we'll take a look. We need some, in case we ever had to punt, which would be doubtful, so this would probably be the most boring job on the team. Isaiah Littlejohn is the punter. 401 yards, 5 TDs this year, and a little part-time role as quarterback for the Foss Falcons. So Isaiah Littlejohn, what impressed me about him is in that Fog Bowl game, out of the shotgun on 4th down from their own end of the field, he punted. And I like that. I like a kid that it doesn't have to have the full distance to punt the ball. He punts out of the shotgun. Welcome to the team. And then kicker, Matt Felici, 5 touchbacks on the season, 4 of 5 field goals, along with 43 and 27 of 32 in PATs. And what I like about Felici, he's well coached at Bellarmine Prep, and he kicks those off of grass, which is a lot tougher to do than it is off the turf. And so Bellarmine puts turf in there, which will probably never happen in our lifetime.
No.
So they like that home field advantage. So there is the special teamers on the team: Matt Felici, kicker, Bellarmine Prep, and Foss Falcon Isaiah Littlejohn. Just love to go and play a game against someone with these kids.
Now, I'll tell you the thing that you do that nobody else does. You make all the administrative decisions as well. Where are we going to play? What hot dog are we going to eat? Whose marching band are we going to listen to?
Okay, let's take a look. We got to think outside the box on a place to play. I had the opportunity to travel down to Bandon Dunes over the summer, and on the way down to Bandon Dunes, we drove through Tillamook, Oregon. And as we're driving along the highway, I see this school, Tillamook High School, home of the Cheesemakers. So I'm like, it's a wooden grandstand on both sides. In 2007, they decided, hey, let's get with the times, and they built the turf field in. So we will play our home games not in Washington, but in Tillamook, Oregon. And when they did this field, on one end it says Tillamook Cheesemakers, and on the other one it says Tillamook Cheese, and both end zones are yellow. So perfect. That's where we're going to play our games.
That's going to be a lot of school bus money for fuel.
Yeah,
but you're going to be close to golf heaven, so I understand the thinking.
But just to, it's like going to Pete's Pool and watching games at White River High School. It's just, or out to Ording before they put the turf in at Ording. It just has that small town feel that Eatonville. And so Tillamook, which is also home of the largest blimp hangar in the world.
I didn't know that.
So hey,
I just figured there was cheese and nothing else there.
No, they got the largest blimp hangar in the entire world. Referee Steve Savage again. You have to have someone who knows a lot about football rules, because there's a big difference between college, NFL, and high school, and he does a good job, at least with me, explaining the difference between the rules at all three of the levels. Because when a lot of parents go to games, they're hollering because what they see in the NFL. Well, high school rules are totally different, and Steve Savage, one of the top officials for Western Washington, will make his 4th trip to the all overbo team, and one more year. I think Foster Sorrell may tie him in 3 years from now.
Sounds like we should get Steve in for a phoner one of these days.
And then hot dog, without question, the best hot dog all year long. And the Lakewood Lions Club, or Kiwanis, one of the two, runs the snack bar at Harry Lang Stadium. And if you haven't had a hot dog there, without question, that's going to be the official hot dog of the 2013 All Overbo team.
You know it's there because it's in the white trailer, folks. White trailer.
And then finally, the final choice will be the band. And the band this year, Rogers High School Marching Band is the band.
Congratulations, Rams.
And that's not the first time they've been on the All Overbo team. As we have just a few minutes here to wrap it up, we'll start with 4A. And we talked, obviously Graham Kapowis and maybe Camas. You also have over Skyline. You can really never count Skyline out. Their only loss on the year so far was to Bellevue. So who do you like maybe down toward the end of the stretch in the 4A?
Well, you mentioned two schools I expect to be there. Skyline's a little more run-oriented this year now that Max Brown's gone. They had a couple transfers come in that are one's a really good running back. I think it's Camus and everybody else, but I'd like to see. I think Graham Kapowsin can be one of those teams that right there with Skyline that can really make some noise. There's a couple schools. Ferris over in Spokane plays really, really good defense, which is something that not a lot of teams are playing. So I like, they bottled up Skyline a few years ago in the state championship game, so never count them out. So the different parts of the state are pretty well represented.
And pretty much it's a given. You could pretty much bet your mortgage on the fact that Bellevue will win this 3A. The only team I've really seen that might have a chance is O'Day, one of the better O'Day teams that Monty Kohler's had for quite some time. And hopefully that's a game we could see the last game of the year, O'Day. Bellevue, and Bellevue set the state record for the most consecutive victories. I think it was like 49 consecutive, and the record's finally been broken.
Yeah, I think everybody would like to see that game. O'Day has the athletes to give that wing tee some trouble. A really good defensive lineman, a good linebacking core, a lot of great athletes, speed, which is what you need with those really athletic linemen from Bellevue. But you're right, Bellevue is the team to beat. They still have Buda Baker, who's the #1 recruit in the Northwest, and it's going to take a monumental effort for somebody to take them down.
Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us, Todd, and thank all the players, coaches. Can't thank everyone enough. Join us tomorrow night. We'll have the Emerald Ridge Jaguars against the Mount Rainier Rams. Thanks, and good night, everyone.
Clay Radio, your conversation station. KLAY Lakewood, Tacoma on 1180 AM.